everybody, and welcome back to Scotty P.
And me.
Today we're doing part 2 on school experiences. So, before we get into the good stuff, we do need to talk about some other bad stuff that has happened for us during our times at school. But
Your time at school.
yeah. But before we begin, we just need to put this in, the disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
No, we are not professionals. So, we are not medical professionals, we're just talking from experience.
Our life journey. Hey.
So,
Yep. Alright,
yeah.
let's go.
Mum, how about you start us off?
Okay, so, I guess if we jump into the worst scenario, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and name and shame this school because they did not do well for Scott, right through to the core, all staff and higher management. We naming and shaming Otamoto Intermediate. So what happened there was it started out Scott was being bullied, and it took us a while to realise that, and some of the behaviours were reflected back at Scott and said that he caused them or aggravated other people. Yeah, it was interesting how it was dealt with, and of course, because it took us time to realise what it was, we had quite a few meltdowns at school, didn't we? And by then it was far too late. The teachers had already put him in that naughty boy box, and that's what was his problem, and autism was just an excuse really in their minds, eh? Anyway, that moved on to his teacher physically abusing him, pushing him and pulling him out of the room when he wouldn't comply to a simple instruction. Things escalated quite quickly when Scott... Do you want to talk about that instead of me? Not really.
I don't like talking about that stuff.
Okay, so...
Sorry if I'm quite quiet through this, I just don't like talking about this sort of stuff.
So, yeah, Scott didn't want to put his iPad down because he was reading it, which is one of his loves. The teacher asked him to put it down. He didn't. The teacher repeatedly asked him to put it down. He didn't. It caused the teacher to physically take it off him, which of course resulted in a meltdown. And then the teacher decided, well, you can't be in our classroom then, and Scott didn't understand that at all. He still wanted to be in the classroom. He wasn't posing a threat to anybody, or himself or anybody else, and he still wanted to be in there. But the teacher physically removed him, pulled him, pushed him out of the classroom, and they were having a hold off at the doorway until the principal came. Now, this escalated quite a bit, and we didn't actually know that this had happened for a while. And of course Scott's behaviour got worse and worse, to the point where I was being called every week to go to the school because of Scott's behaviour, and this just did not make sense to me at all. It wasn't our Scotty, was it? I knew something was going down, but I didn't quite know what. Anyway, long story short, he was put into a special needs class, which broke my heart. I knew he didn't belong there, but they thought it was the best thing. And I thought that would be a good move, and unfortunately it was the worst thing that could happen. The teachers there verbally abused him, were manipulative, and just horrible to Scott, to the point where a worker from CAMS decided that she needed to put in a complaint to SIFS, and that's how we were contacted. So you could imagine our distress when, you know, you're called by a CAMS worker saying, look, we're going to have to file a complaint to SIFS, and I'm like, what did Scott do? And she's like, no, it's the teachers. Yeah, it was not a pleasant experience. We took it to the principal and complained, and that was just reflected back upon the CAMS worker, that the CAMS worker hadn't filled in a proper report, so how could they reply, how could they give a good plan for Scott, and it was all, to be frank, a load of bullshit. I know, sorry. Yeah, it gets me really angry when people like principals and board of trustees try and sweep this sort of abuse under the rug and try and protect their teachers when they should be protecting their children. We took Scott out of that school pretty quick smart and reported it to the board, which was again a waste of time, but what can you do? We moved Scott to Tauranga Intermediate, where the fun began, eh? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. Tauranga Intermediate was one of the best schools that I went to, actually. I would say maybe, so far, my best school.
Yeah.
My second best would obviously be Autism Primary School. That's why I thought Autism Intermediate would be a good idea, because I loved Autism Primary so much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So time to talk about the good stuff that's happened. Now, as soon as I got to Tauranga Intermediate, I didn't know what was going to happen, you know? I'd been told it was, like, really big, like the biggest intermediate in New Zealand, and I was like, okay, well, that means there's going to be a lot more people to bully me. I still felt down after all of that, you know, Automoto intermediate nonsense.
You were quite scared, weren't you?
And I also knew that some people from Gate Pass School, which I am naming and shaming yet again, because like Automoto Intermediate, they have not treated me like I should be treated. Isn't that right, Mum?
Yep, yet another school that neglected Scott when he needed them the most. Anyway, yeah, Tauranga Intermediate right from day one has been awesome. They were right on the spot about getting things into place that Scott needed. They gave him toilet breaks, or they called them brain breaks. Anything Scott needed, they were aware of. They were happy to talk to me at any time. They actually wanted to know what they could do to help him, and right from get-go they just accepted him for who he was and what he was able to give back to everybody else.
And I love that. I love when people understand how ASD works, because as a teacher you need to know your students and how to flex your knowledge around that. So you may think that, oh, I have this one style of learning, I'll just use it on every kid that comes at me. That's not always going to work, because not everyone's the same. Everyone will react to the same thing differently.
Yeah. That's a really, really good tip, and probably a really good tip to finish on, is this is what makes the difference between a good teacher and a bad teacher. A good teacher is a teacher that is well informed about all types of children, knowing that...
And accepts them for who they are.
Exactly. Knowing that every child is an individual and that they all bring their own strengths and weaknesses, and working towards those strengths and interests, and
maybe even introducing new strengths that they didn't even know about.
Yeah, pushing them a little bit when they need that push. But also a sign of a good teacher is upskilling when they need to. So if you're not skilled in knowing about children with ASD, get researching, get skilled up. That's what's going to make you a good teacher. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so we're going to sign off for now. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, I think maybe next time I'll come back with some other good stuff, and I hope you have fun out there, and remember, always think on the good side about things and accept people. That's today's moral story. Accept people for who they are. Everyone's different, and everyone needs some sort of different treatments.
Cool. Alright, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
If you want to keep up on track.
Bye.